Welcome to the Turnpike Sports Spotlight. Dave Weishuttle with you. Working in the gambling industry, I've been to a lot of gaming conferences, but there's one coming up that I think is really special. Not only does it have the top experts in the gambling field, but it's being held at one of the most beautiful areas in this country. It's called the Racing and Gaming Conference at Saratoga, and it's being held on August 10th through the 12th. And we're going to find out all about it because on the line we have the conference's owner and director, Patrick Brown. Pat, thanks for coming on.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You know, the Racing and Gaming Conference at Saratoga is certainly an important conference, not only for horse racing, but for the gambling industry as a whole. Tell us about the history of the conference and what was the inspiration for its creation?
Sure. The conference started 25 years ago now by the Government Law Center at Albany Law School. And it originally was a one-day conference focusing on horse racing issues, particularly New York horse racing issues. And because it was put on by the law school, its primary focus was to provide panels for lawyers about horse racing issues. And over the years, the conference got more popular, and really the attendance grew, and it was really quite successful as a New York lawyer horse racing conference. And then back 16 years ago now, casinos were starting to come to New York. Then Governor Cuomo was putting forth an idea to bring casinos to New York. So the law school decided to expand the conference from 1 to 2 days and to include a day on horse racing and a day on casinos. And it was successful. It grew quite a bit. And then in 2019, the law school made a decision that they didn't want to continue with the conference. And at that point, I stepped forward. I had been working on it as a member of the Government Law Center Advisory Board, so I knew all about the conference. So I stepped forward in 2019 and said, I don't want the conference to die. I'll take it over and we'll run it. Thankfully, since I do nothing about running conferences, I quickly, the best decision I ever made, I quickly teamed up with the Spectrum Gaming Group, and they handle all of the logistics of the conference and do such a great job with it. And we couldn't do it in 2020 because of COVID, but since then we've done it every August, and it's grown every year, both attendance and the depth and breadth of the subject matter. And this year, I think we have a great agenda and really prominent and terrific panelists. So I'm really looking forward to it this year.
Well, let me ask you about that, because you always have a very impressive list of speakers at the Racing and Gaming Conference at Saratoga. Tell me some of the speakers that people can see when they go to the conference.
Well, I'll start off with Steve Kornacki,
Sure.
the data analyst for NBC. I'm going to do a one-on-one hour-long interview with Steve, and we're going to talk about the numbers. A lot of discussion around horse racing particularly, but I think both horse racing and gambling. casino gambling are anecdotal. The data isn't relied on nearly enough, which is kind of ironic because horse racing is so data driven. But when you talk policy, it's I've found it to be lacking. So we're going to get into the numbers with Steve about the question of whether horse racing is consolidating to the point where you have, 6 owners, 6 trainers and 6 bettors, really, that are kind of dominating the whole industry and the whole sport, and the rest of us are kind of left over on the side. And I think it's going to be a fascinating discussion. We're going to go through some of the trends, historic trends about full crop and about who's winning the races, who's owning the stallions, who's training the best horses. And it really gets to this issue of, are we racing to breed or are we breeding to race? And this notion that we're racing to breed is really kind of pervasive in the horse racing industry right now. And it's a reality, but it has some negative consequences.
I love the fact that you're starting off the conference with some horse racing panels. I mean, one of them is called Integrity, Horse Welfare, and the Human Element in Racing. And the other one is called Horse Racing and Regulatory Modernization HISA Update. First off, before we get into that subject, in your opinion, what is the status of the horse racing industry right now? I mean, here in New Jersey, Freehold Park recently closed, which I never thought would happen. I'm hearing rumors that it's going to be an Amazon warehouse, but I'm not sure about that. But it's shocking that Freehold Park closed. But in your opinion, what is the health of the horse racing industry nationwide?
Well, I think at the top levels, horse racing is gangbusters. Mm-hmm. I mean, you look at Belmont, you look at New Belmont, you look at Saratoga.
Sure.
You look at what Kentucky's doing. You've got, real growth, but the question is that growth going to filter down to the medium size and smaller tracks? And there's a real question about whether we're going to be left with, half dozen tracks before this consolidation ends. And, given the pervasiveness of wagering online, both in horse racing and in other types of wagering as well, it's going to take real foresight to figure out the economics of actually putting on the horse racing show.
Sure.
And we're going to have somebody from NYRA come and talk about Belmont and the expansion there and just the incredible investment and really what I would consider hope for the future of bricks and mortar racetrack. This new Belmont will be the standard, at least for a while. So, the question is the new Belmont the last big track to be built in the United States, or is it the beginning of, or the continuation of these bricks and mortar expansions?
Let me ask you about an issue that came up recently. I mean, we didn't have the drama of a potential Triple Crown winner because the Kentucky Derby winner, Golden Tempo, didn't race in the Preakness. They cite the health of the horse and the quick turnaround time between races. What do you think needs to change in the industry to ensure the health of the horse, but also incentivize the benefits of racing in the 3 Triple Crown races?
Well, the Triple Crown itself is the event for horse racing in the United States. I mean, that's obvious.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that there needs to be a governing body or governing partnership or coalition, which there used to be on the Triple Crown, where, right now tracks are making decisions for themselves, right?
Yeah.
Churchill Downs is, doing gangbusters and doing great things with the Derby, right?
Yeah.
But they're not incentivized to change the date of the Derby or anything else. They're doing great. And, the same can be said for NYRA. NYRA's trying to make the Belmont a premier race, and they're looking at it through their lens. But in order for there to be a coordinated and kind of a rational approach to the Triple Crown, seems to me there has to be an overarching sort of governing body. Mm-hmm. And we really don't have that in horse racing. I mean, the Jockey Club used to serve that purpose, but yeah. I think it's fair to say Jockey Club absolutely has a central role in racing, but it doesn't serve that purpose any longer.
You have another very interesting panel called Stubborn Optimism, the Economics of Horse Ownership. And I love the fact in the program you had that old saying that everyone uses in the industry, bet on them, don't feed them. Has horse ownership become more challenging recently? Because, as you said, there's a lot of changes, a lot of tracks are independent of each other. Is it tough being a horse owner more today than it has been in the past?
Oh, yes. And this is really talking about me. This panel is sort of my panel. Okay. I am a, lower level horse owner. I own shares in horses that race at Saratoga that, I'm part of that ownership group, and we don't own $1 million horses. We own $50,000 claimers. We own those types of horses, and it has become incredibly challenging to make any sense of the numbers. The return on investment is certainly never guaranteed, and it is never great. You go into it with your eyes open, and you know that. But it's becoming harder and harder. The training fees go up. The insurance goes up. The vet bills go up. Everything is more expensive. And it's harder and harder to get your horse on a race schedule where it's racing every 3 weeks or at least once a month. And those two things, when you don't have as much opportunity to generate revenue and your costs are really ballooning, that's a prescription for a very tough business. Yeah. That's where we are right now. The guys who buy $1 million horses, they're doing great. I mean, they're doing better than ever. The guys who, like me, who buy $60,000 horses and are in it with 6 other guys, it's tough. It's really, it's hard to even call it a business at this point. I hope my tax man isn't listening to that. Right. But yeah, I'm very pleased that we have that panel, and I'm looking forward to it. The guy running that panel, Carl, is also kind of the same in the same situation as me. So he has very personal kind of firsthand knowledge. He's gonna run a great panel there, I'm sure.
Now, another panel you're having is a big issue, especially here in the Northeast, and it's called Downstate Casinos and the Future of Gaming in the Northeast. I mean, we talked about this over the years, me and you, and it's finally here. In New Jersey, we're seeing the billboards and commercials for Resorts World New York City, and it's just, it's overwhelming us here. But I got to ask you, before I ask you more about this, what's the status for the other two New York City area casinos? When's that other shoe going to drop for people here in New Jersey who are panicking?
Well, they can take a breath. It seems like we're, I would say, several years out for the Metropolitan Park, the Hard Rock facility in Queens, and maybe the Bally's project in the Bronx will come before that. But I think we're looking at 2030 when we're cutting ribbons around that. I mean, we're going to find out. We're going to have reps from the casino projects come and talk about the future. This panel, I'm happy to be able to put on. I've been doing panels, moderating them, and having them on the agenda for years. And really, what we've been talking about is: are we going to have casinos? When are we going to have casinos? Who's going to get? It's all been processed. And now, finally, I can moderate a panel that says this facility is going to open on this date, and and this is what's going to be in it. So I'm looking forward to that and finding out like what the timeline is, because they're shifting. I mean, it's hard to build a birdhouse in New York City. I mean, building an $8 billion project in Queens, it's just such a massive undertaking. The timelines will shift for sure.
So what is the effect going to be in the Northeast from these New York City area casinos? I can tell you here in New Jersey, there's a push to have casinos outside of Atlantic City. Now I'm starting to see commercials about opposing casinos in North Jersey. They're actually citing traffic concerns. They have the slogan, event traffic will now become everyday traffic. But in my opinion, there's going to be more traffic in North Jersey because of these New York City casinos, so you might as well have them in New Jersey. But we'll see what that goes. But what do you see as the effect, not only in New Jersey, but also, there are two Connecticut casinos that may be affected by New York City area casinos?
Sure, there will be. It'll affect the casinos in Connecticut. It'll affect the casinos in Eastern Pennsylvania. It'll affect, obviously, Atlantic City. It'll have a huge bearing on whether there's going to be a casino or more than one in North Jersey. It'll probably have some impact on the casinos in upstate New York. Not so much out in Rochester, but Schenectady, sure, I would think will be impacted. I think in the beginning, anyway, everybody wants to go see the shiny new thing.
Oh, yeah.
So, there will be folks kind of going to New York City to see what's there. And it's up to the New York City facilities to keep those people. Going to a casino, even in New York City, there is a convenience factor that figures in to what casino you go to. So if it's hard to get to, if the parking isn't good, there's all just so many issues to deal with there. So New York's going to get an influx of folks from all around the region, and it's up to them to keep them and keep them coming back. And the way I see it, Atlantic City, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, they've got to figure out strategies to get their people back.
Sure.
And kind of lean into the idea of, we can offer you the same experience or a similar experience without all the hassle of going to Queens. We'll see. I think the biggest impact in the beginning will be bus tours, right? So casinos in Atlantic City, casinos in Connecticut have been going into New York City and taking bus loads of people to their facility. There's a question about whether that's going to be viable when there are casinos in the city. Like, if I can get on the train and go out to Resorts World in Queens, why do I take a 2.5-hour bus ride? So, again, getting folks in the door and keeping them, that's the whole thing.
Now, another panel you're having also addresses a very important issue in the gaming industry, and that is prediction markets. The panel is called Prediction Markets, Innovation, Existential Threat, or Both. As a lawyer, what do you see as the future of prediction markets? They're going to be regulated by the federal government. What role will the states have in regulating prediction markets? Where is this issue going? Because I get asked this all the time, and everyone's wondering, what are the guardrails in the prediction markets? Who's regulating what? And so where do you see the prediction markets issue headed?
Well, I think that during this Trump administration in Washington, the aggressive expansion of regulation of prediction markets by the federal government will continue. They're not going to back off that. Next administration, it's hard to say. As a legal matter, you have the what's called a preemption issue.
Yep.
That is really central to all of the discussion here. Is, one, can Congress preempt the states and take over the regulation of what once was a state purview? And the answer to that almost always is yes.
Yeah.
Congress can do that. The question here is, has Congress done that? Was it the intent in creating the Commodities Futures Regulatory Agency that they get into these types of contracts? When I say these types of contracts, you think of commodities futures as buying soybeans and orange juice and pork bellies and that sort of stuff. And now it's being used to determine, to buy a contract on whether the Yankees are going to beat Tampa Bay by more than 2 runs today. I mean, to me, it's a different thing.
Yeah.
Now, I use this example. I can go on any sports book or go to Vegas, go to Atlantic City, and I can put down a futures bet that the Giants are going to win the Super Bowl next year. That's a bet, and it's always been a bet. There was never any question that was a bet. Now, if I do exactly the same thing on Kalshi, a Polymarket, and I buy a contract that says the Giants are going to win the Super Bowl, that's no longer a bet. That's now something else. That just doesn't make any sense. That has to get itself worked out in the courts. And it's a absolutely fascinating legal topic.
Sure.
But beyond that, it's incredibly important to the sports betting world. I mean, look what you have in sports wagering. You have state regulatory bodies who built up all of these regulations. Mm-hmm. You have know your customer. You have anti-money laundering issues. You have problem gambling rules. You have all of these structures in place to regulate sports wagering. And along comes the prediction market, where you have very little of any of that.
Sure.
Now, maybe that'll come, who knows, but if you're going to stick to the idea that it's not gambling, it's really hard for me to picture anybody investing in problem gambling if your whole premise is, well, this isn't gambling. That's a really that's going to overturn the apple cart. If this stays as is, where the feds are, you've got DraftKings and FanDuel moving over to the prediction markets, and they're on the radio now. I just heard a commercial where it says we're in all 50 states. And that's massive to the sports wagering industry.
I was saying before, this is going to be part of every civil procedure class in the world. So anyone going to law school, you might want to read up on this a little bit.
Yeah. And they've got two great cases. They've got the case out of Jersey and then the case out of Nevada.
Yeah, that was
we're really lucky. We have a woman from Governor Hochul's office who is her advisor on gambling and other matters, but on gambling. And she's gonna be on this panel and kind of talk about it from the state executive's point of view. I tried, but I couldn't get like AGs and litigation people because obviously they're all in litigation and nobody wants to go on a public panel and give away their case, right? So we really went at the agency and also some state AGs, but I'm very pleased that we're gonna have the governor represented here, and we're gonna hear kind of firsthand what how they look at it.
Now, another issue that seems a lot of states are talking about is iGaming. You have a panel called iGaming, Inevitable Innovation or Passing Fancy. A lot of opponents of iGaming talk about cannibalization and the iGaming hurting the profits of retail casinos. Where do you see this issue going in the coming year?
Well, it's interesting that sports wagering kind of got out of the gate in a lot of states, and really kind of wired the field. They really jumped out. iGaming didn't, and it has been a much slower, iterative process in the states to accept playing casino games on your smartphone. I mean, it just is not regarded the same way as, betting on the Giants on your phone. So I think that it's a slog, and it has been, and it will continue to be. There is a lot of money at stake. In New York, Senator Adabo, who is the sponsor of the iGaming bill, puts the number going to the state at $1 billion a year when it's fully ramped up. So these are real numbers, and even in New York, $1 billion is a pretty significant chunk. So the motivation of the states to continue to look at this is the money, obviously. What's the difficulty is you have bricks and mortar casinos who are saying, no, this is going to eat into our business, the cannibalization issue. And then I'm starting to see conversation around saturation. Do we have enough? Do we need this? We've got the sports wagering, we've got the bricks and mortar, we've got OTB, we've got horse. Do we need more gambling, and do we need to make it more accessible? And those are legit and very important policy discussions that state legislatures all across the country need to engage in.
Now, you mentioned sports betting, and over the last year, the sports betting industry has had to deal with a couple of betting scandals, both at the professional and collegiate level. I mean, many people are pointing to prop betting as part of the problem, and you're having a panel on that aspect of betting entitled Prop Bets, Point Shaving, and the Hunt for a Square Game. What will that panel discuss? Because that is such a huge topic right now in the industry.
Yeah, it's a major issue, and it needs to be, because gambling needs to be accepted by folks who don't gamble. The irony is, in order for these types of things to be approved in state legislatures and in Congress, there has to be a consensus around it. And it can't just be the people who want to place bets. It has to be accepted. It's the same thing with horse racing. Horse racing has to be accepted as a general proposition in order for it to survive. And if there continues to be scandal around wagering on sports, and the integrity of the actual game is challenged by those scandals, you're going to start to lose the support of the general citizenry. And when that happens, then you've got a real problem as an industry. So you've got to make sure that the perception and the reality is that this is a fair and square game. And right now, you've got some kid in a level 3 college who misses a foul shot, and there's questions about whether he actually missed the foul shot or whether he intentionally missed. And that is a serious problem.
Yeah.
And we are lucky to have the basketball coach for University at Albany on this panel to talk about the real everyday issue with trying to train up and school young kids, because they're college kids, but they're still young, how to avoid getting into trouble in this area. And I'm looking forward to that. I think that's going to be a very telling. And we've got the World Cup, we've got Major League Soccer represented on this panel, and I think the question about prop bets is a serious question, because particularly in those sports where it's individual play, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're betting on the Yankees, that's one thing. But if you're betting that this pitcher is going to throw, a strike this next pitch or some craziness like that, there's a lot more room for scandal and problems when that's the bet.
Now, those are just some of the panels that you're having at the Racing and Gaming Conference at Saratoga. What are some of the other topics you're going to hit during the conference, and who are some of the other speakers you want to highlight for the conference?
Well, we mentioned the HISA panel, but we have, I'll say 2.5 panels on regulatory structures, and it sounds like those would be kind of boring for the lawyers, but they're really not. We're years into regulating gambling in this country, and we're still having discussions about who should be the regulator and how should that regulator be structured. So you have the HISA panel, and we have some, really good folks on that panel, Ed Martin from ARCI and others who are going to talk about HISA 3 years in, mm-hmm. What have they done right? What have they done wrong? What needs to improve? And there's, that should really kind of highlight, where we are in horse racing regulation. And then we have a panel on state regulatory structure. And here's what prompted it. Right now, you have a lot of states, including New York, where the same regulatory body regulates all other forms of gambling and is in the business itself because it runs the state lottery. And so the lottery, competes with sports wagering platforms. They're looking for the gaming dollar just like anybody else in the gaming business. So you have this, I won't say conflict, but at least friction, mm-hmm. where you have the regulator also being in the business. And there's a number of states that are, looking to either structure for the first time or restructure their regulatory bodies to, kind of take that into consideration when they're trying to figure out what the best regulatory body would look like. So that's going to be interesting. And we have, and then of course the prediction panel is kind of half about who gets to regulate and who doesn't. Those panels should be interesting. And then I do want to highlight the last panel of the day of the conference. And that is, a bet is a bet, or is it? Mm-hmm. And this panel, Bennett Liebman, who's been, a stalwart of the conference since the beginning, and he's a professor at Albany Law School, and has forgotten more about gambling and horse racing than anybody else that I know even knows. He's going to moderate this panel, and we're going to talk about how the evolution of fantasy sports and now prediction markets. And so, when fantasy came, their argument was it's not gambling, so you shouldn't regulate it as gambling. This is daily fantasy.
Yeah.
And now, that's now, it looked like gambling, but, it kind of went through the courts and they prevailed and they convinced the courts that it's not, it doesn't fall under the definition of gambling. And now we have the prediction market where, in my example, buying the contract on the Giants looks like gambling, but they're arguing that it isn't. So we're now we're kind of back at that. So that should be a pretty interesting. And that panel has Joe Asher and Applebaum. It's got some real old school players who are now into some innovative platforms. So they have some great things to talk about on that panel.
Now, one of the many great things about the Racing and Gaming Conference at Saratoga is that the historic Saratoga Racecourse is right there. Is the conference doing anything or holding any events at the location during the conference?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yep. I mean, I've always said that we want to talk about very serious business at the conference and then have a whole lot of fun when we're not in these panels. And we've structured it that way. We're going to have a welcome party at the incredible Adelphi Hotel down on Broadway in Saratoga Springs. Just an amazing place. I've said this before on your show. This is the same bar, the actual bar that Mark Twain bellied up to and told stories when he was helping Ulysses Grant write his autobiography. So this place has some history.
Special.
And it's just a beautiful place. And we have a nice party there on Monday night. And we're going to go to the races on Wednesday afternoon after the conference is over. So we're going to probably bring 60, maybe 70 people over to the racetrack on Wednesday afternoon. So those are the two big events. Tuesday night we have a smaller like cocktail hour after a full day of sessions. So we're going to have some fun.
Well, I also want to ask you, I just got the press release that the Racing and Gaming Conference at Saratoga is doing something very special for the Saratoga Harness Horsepersons Association. What is the Racing and Gaming Conference doing for them? Because I think it's great.
Well, as you know, and your listeners probably know, there was a horrific fire at Saratoga Harness and destroyed a barn and a number of horses. And I feel that the conference can't stand apart from the industry. It has to be part of and be considered to be part of. So we want to contribute. So we said that we're going to donate $2,500 from the proceeds of the conference to this organization. And also, we're encouraging all the attendees. We should have, upwards to 300 attendees at the conference. We're encouraging all of them to go to the GoFundMe page and make their own contributions to this effort. It's a terrible thing, but it also serves to bring the community and the industry together, and we want to be part of that.
Pat, we're running out of time, but if someone wants to get involved and attend the Racing and Gaming Conference at Saratoga, what's the website they go to, and how do they sign up to attend the event?
Well, the website is racingandgamingsaratoga.com. There are ways to register for the conference on that website, ways to get yourself a hotel room. It's very difficult to get hotel rooms in Saratoga during the meet. So we got a block of rooms, and we even got an overflow block. So we have some left, but not many, and they're going to run out here probably in a week. So if you're going to do it, you need to sign up for you can sign up for the conference anytime, but if you want to try to get a room, you've got to do it in the next week or so. And if there are any folks out there who want to be on the sponsor page, there's a place to do that too. It's always welcome.
Pat Brown, thanks so much for coming on and telling us about the Racing and Gaming Conference at Saratoga, which is being held on August 10th through the 12th, and you can check that out at racingandgamingsaratoga.com. Sounds like it's going to be an incredible event, so anyone who's interested in horse racing, sports betting, and the gaming industry in general should check it out. Pat, thanks for telling us all about it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
That'll do it for us this week. We'll see you next time on the Turnpike.